live. I haven't tried to time this in a very long time, so you're gonna have to bear with me. But I am finally back to say welcome to the PGA DFS First Look from Awesemo.com. Myself, Ben Raza, here with my two partners in crime, Sal Vetri, Jeff Ulrich. Boys, I haven't talked to either of you in a couple months. We were talking Players Championship, and then we had to fast forward to July. I'm glad to see both of you.
Yeah, right back at you. I mean, this feels good. This just feels right. It's we're back in action, so I'm excited for this. I'm excited to break into it.
Absolutely. Chat, I just did a show with a lot of you. I'm very happy to see you made the move, came over with us, talk a little golf. Obviously, if you can hit the like button right off the bat, helps us immensely. But Jeff, you got to be excited, are you not?
I mean, look, it just feels like we're on like a 2 or 3 month, I don't know. Everyone just went on like a weird vacation for 2 or 3 months. And I don't know, just from my own look, I'd been done like PGA stuff, like talking like 4 or 5 years in a row without like a break, every weekend doing articles. And then it's just like, it just stops. So it was very strange. And, obviously a lot of things going on in the world, but yeah, man, I mean, this is cool to be back and getting to do it again. It feels kind of almost like a privilege. So definitely happy to be doing this show again.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I will say the one thing, golf is such a grind. It's basically the entire year. You never really get a time to stop. I got a couple months to reflect, to do some things. I had some opportunities to reflect on my own play. And I will just say right off the top, I put out a primer yesterday that dove into some of my results and talked about what I'm trying to do, things to know for the upcoming season. So if you haven't seen that, feel free to check that out. But Sal, I mean, is that something that you kind of were excited about, just getting a pause? We never really get that with golf.
Yeah, I mean, you get like maybe a month's break, and then you have to kind of just dive into a lot of stuff that's happening then. That's usually right around the NFL. Playoffs start to happen then around NFL. So lots of stuff going on. So yeah, I mean, it was, in terms of just refreshing, I would say after like the month, it was like refreshing. And then I was just itching to have stuff back, which is right around when the Outlaw Tour started, which we'll probably talk a little bit about that, but very excited to get PGA back.
That's something I hadn't even thought about. We'll get into that real quick before we dive into the recent form. Jeff, did you play any of it?
I mean, look, I was doing articles for DraftKings, so I definitely played it and bet on it a little bit with, not much success. I'm not going to lie, but, it was fun to keep track of at the very least. I think it's interesting maybe in the future going forward, if DraftKings is going to invest maybe in like a mini tour like that and see if they can fill that void Monday, Tuesday. That was kind of the first thing that popped up to my head. So I think the Outlaw Tour is one of those things that might stick with us from the kind of COVID break and change the sports landscapes a bit. I could see one of these mini tours catching on a little bit. It's something to think about. At the same time, from a PGA DFS standpoint, it's hard. Like, you don't have stats. Half these dudes are coming in from all the way around the world, varying forms. So it's not exactly, it was a big learning curve. And if we get more sample sizes and stuff like that and stats and better just coverage of it, I think it'll be a product in the future. But for right now, it was at least good to have something. So, yeah.
For sure. Sal, did you play? I mean, I couldn't play in New York, so I honestly took a break from it, and it was kind of refreshing in that.
It's probably the good.
Yeah, no, I played the first, I think 3 weeks. And yeah, that was the issue. It just became like the big piece of it is trying to have a sweat, or at least tuning in, seeing if your players make the cut on Friday. And one, it was a showdown format every day, which made it a little bit more of a sweat, but you just didn't have that live scoring aspect. Yeah. It was harder to stick with it at that point. You were kind of putting your money behind something. And at the end of the day, it was like a stock, seeing if anything changed, and it was hard to stay with it.
Yeah, that's kind of brutal. I'm not gonna lie, but I will say, so we have a lot of people who are probably pretty new to PGA, and that is awesome to see. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. I will just say, though, the prize pools are so massive right now. If you haven't looked, we've got a Millie Maker, $3 million in there. Then there's $1 million prize pool, 555, various other contests, different prizes, single entry, 3 max, all the way up to the 150s. So this is the time to jump in, and I'm really glad that people stopped by. Let's dive into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is recent form. That is something that is a key component of golf. You want to see how guys are playing. I'll start with you, Jeff. We obviously don't have that. So basically, what are you doing just right off the cuff there? Are you going to look at how guys played before the break? Or are you going to treat this like the off season where guys don't play for a couple months?
I'm still going to look. It's not going to be I mean, I'm still not settled on what I'm going to do, but definitely going to look at recent form. I think what I'm probably going to do is end up just cutting it down. So it's more like recent form, like 24 rounds kind of thing, as opposed to even 50 rounds, 100 rounds. I still feel like there's value in emphasizing players who were playing good before the break. I mean, golf is a sport that, obviously a lot of things going to happen. Guys are going to come out hot that you didn't expect. That happens every week though. So I still feel like emphasizing those players who showed good form pre-break is the smart thing to do. And again, I think maybe taking a bit of a smaller sample size from the beginning of the season, those last 4 or 5 tournaments, that's probably where I'm leaning right now. Again, emphasizing 24 rounds, maybe instead of 50 or something like that. Even like going down a little bit smaller sample size. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning. And then obviously mixing in things like, course fit and stuff like that. But I'm still going to be emphasizing recent form a little bit this first week. Not maybe to the extent I would, like I said, maybe not taking as much into account longer term form, but we'll see how it goes. I don't think the break, I don't think it's going to be as crazy as people think. I think that the players, this is my first impression, I think the players that are playing good before are still going to be playing good now. Like, I don't think it's going to be it's just all of a sudden, Jordan Spieth shows up or Brooks Koepka shows up out of nowhere. Although those guys could, because they're good players, right? But that's my first take.
That's really, yes. So I kind of, that's where I was kind of going with this. Do you think this is like a hard reset for guys? We saw Bryson and certainly Decky at the Players for his one round was ungodly good. Brooks was struggling, things like that. Do you kind of wipe that slate clean, or do you continue on those trajectories?
Yeah, so what I've done right now is similar to what Jeff was saying. I'm going to lower a little bit of the short term and what we were seeing there, just reduce it a little bit, and then kind of keep the same exact weight on long term is how I have it set up right now. And what that's pretty much just going to do is like DJ, maybe Justin Rose, some guys who are struggling a little bit before the break, it's not going to just make them seem as bad as they were. So it's almost going to clean the slate a little bit, but it's also not going to just completely shoot out guys like Bryson and Rory, who have been absolutely dynamite. So yeah, if this was a year off, I would probably just like clean a lot of the slates and say, well, whatever here, I don't know what's going on. But for right now, I'll just kind of reduce the short-term form a little bit and kind of keep long-term the same in how I'm weighting everything.
It's so tricky to know what guys have been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem I have, and I obviously I want to ask both of you this. Benny on, Jeff, I saw you retweeted this morning. He tweeted something about his putter, obviously pretty tongue in cheek, but we are going to overweight anything that we see on social media. If a guy says, man, hitting it better than before, it's going to be, it's off to the races instead of actually seeing it. I don't really have a real answer to this, but I guess just how do you deal with things like that flying blind with so many players?
Yeah, I think you need to look at that stuff and almost use it to your advantage this week. Like when you see something like that and a player gets pumped up, I would ignore it. I would actually consider fading it. All these guys are good. Like Joel Damon, I can't remember how to pronounce it, but he went out and shot a 58 off like no practice during the break. So all these guys are capable of doing that. And that's kind of what I meant. Somebody's going to show up and shoot like 62 the first round. Mm-hmm. And he might not win the tournament, but like there's going to be sample sizes like that. So, trying to predict it from just a dude playing, I had a good practice round or something like that. Like it's kind of ludicrous. So I would definitely try and block out, especially this week with so much break and everyone coming in with various forms. I'd try and block out all that. I think especially this week, I'm going to be taking the contrarian approach. If a player starts to get built up like that, I'll just fade him completely. Like I just won't care because there's so many variables, more variables than normal in play this week. And I think just sticking to, your guns, the course history, a little bit of recent form is probably going to be good. So, and again, that'll give you a bit of ownership leverage too. That it's a good way to kind of maybe cut certain players out or cut weight down in certain spots. So.
No doubt about it. All right. So I want to get this right off the top, chat, because I've mentioned this on other shows, but if you haven't seen this, we have 2 big promos going on. Nightbot just dropped it. You can lock in your yearly passes, 20% off the PGA annual with the promo code Schwab, obviously for this week. And we also have a 10% off platinum yearly with the promo code summer. So if you're an all sports kind of guy, you like golf, but you're also going to be playing NBA and NFL and things, promo code summer is going to get you 10% off. If you want the golf package, 20% off the PGA annual with the promo code Schwab. So this is the time to take advantage of those things. If you go to Twitter on our awesemo.com Twitter page. We have a giveaway as well for a free weekly. You just have to reply to the tweet with who you think the greatest golfer ever is. So we have a lot of ways where you can get some free stuff. But let's move it to course history, because we've all talked about that, Sal, and that's the one thing we do have. That's not going away. Certainly, we have seen Colonial. The Charles Schwab is not a new tournament by any stretch. I guess to start off, it's almost the opposite. Do you think people are going to overweight that just because we're missing the pillar of recent form?
Yeah, I think so 100%. And this is actually something that, like, having this time off was something that I tried to work with. I'm not sure if I have it 100% down, but I guess I'll test it out this week. It's trying to, like, set up course history for just specific golfers for specific courses. So the way that it's weighted is not like as one single thing for everybody. And it works a little bit better for like the past 1 to 3 years mainly. So like the way that I'm weighting it is just that like new system. So it'll be a little bit different and it'll be individualized for that course. But I think in general, yeah, everybody's going to use it as just a stat that hasn't changed in the last year because they played here last year, or at least most of these guys did. So I think it's going to be generally overweighted. For me, it's technically not going to change. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis.
Boy, that's something, that's a hot topic when everything's going smoothly. Course history, you see certain guys, horses for courses and whatnot. Jeff, what do you make of it? I mean, this is a course that we have seen a bunch. And next week with all our shows, we're going to dive into specifics of Colonial and things like that. We're going to keep it pretty general because this is a welcome back show.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have to look at it, of course. I just worry that people are going to get too crazy with it just because they're searching for information we don't have.
Yeah, totally. And again, Colonial is interesting because, I've obviously been looking at some of the results and just the course history and stuff like that. It does play. It's a veterans course. I mean, it's an older course. It's a classic course. It's a course where you have players who've played here a lot. They get top 10s. They come back a couple of years and they get a win. Kevin Na is a great example. Kevin Kisner is a great example. So this is a course where normally, like you said, everything's going well. You're looking at course history. It's a veteran setup, but I mean, Justin Rose won here on his first visit. I believe it was his first visit, or he hadn't played here in a long time. And Brooks Koepka was second here on his first visit. John Rahm was T2 on his first visit. It's not that hard a course. It's just the hardest part of Colonial. And again, we won't get too much into it. Is really just placement off the tee. If you can figure that out and have a decent week off the tee, I mean, and you're hitting your irons good, you can definitely overcome this course. So I don't think you should overweight it too much this week. I think there's certain players who ownership is just going to get out of control because of it. Rahm could definitely be one of those players. So, I wouldn't use that as the only, thing in your basket. I would really look at guys who are hitting approaches from certain metrics, well before this, coming in. Guys maybe had a little bit of course correlation, just players with good fits. So I think course history is something I still look at, but again, you might be able to find some leverage off it, or just don't overemphasize. Just make sure it's not the only thing you're looking at this week because you're scared of looking at recent form. Like I said off the top, I still think recent form is something you need to emphasize just almost as much as a regular week. So,
yeah, I mean, we had a question from chat, friend of the show, Jamal Sal. He asked, like, what's the ratio of how you would weigh recent form versus course history? Obviously, that's a pretty loaded question. I think for me, I'll just say this real quick. I worry about that stuff less with the top players because I know how good they are. Like if Rory has struggled at a course, I don't really care because I know that he can dominate anywhere and everywhere. If it's a guy in the 7K range or something, if they have really good results, it's like, all right, this might be one of the only courses that they really have a chance on. But how do you kind of blend that up? I guess I know it can change week to week.
Yeah, I guess like the most general way to say it is that for me, recent form will be weighted just a lot heavier. Like, so in terms of, most players like a course, so like course fit versus course history. Course fit is kind of recent form in there, just how well they fit that course. That'll be weighed a lot more. Some weeks, depending on the player, it could be weighed like 10x more. So course history in general is weighed like very little for me. Maybe it's like at most 5 to 10% of like an overall ranking for a player.
That makes sense. The one thing with course history, and I just want to ask this real quick, and then we can move on because I have we have a whole topic that says questions we need answered because I got questions for both of you. But specifically with course history, and this doesn't have to just be for the Charles Schwab. Do you approach it differently because the schedule has changed? I mean, we're talking about Jeff going to Augusta in September or October, whatever it is. Do you think the calendar is making the course history somewhat tainted, possibly?
I mean, it's a week to week thing. You definitely need to keep an eye on, because it will, I think as we get down the road, it'll affect it more. That's actually a good question. I was going to look this up, but this is the original date for Colonial, isn't it?
I believe so, yes.
I
Yeah.
think so,
So
yeah.
again, I just wanted to confirm that it's really not an issue this week, but as we get down the road, yeah, it's something to look at. I think it's more, as bigger tournaments like the Masters is going to be a big one to think. I mean, I've already heard people think that this might really play into Rory McIlroy's favor, having it in November as opposed to its regular time for various reasons. And I might even buy into that a little bit. So, as we get in and the schedule changes and things like that, yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the other thing to consider is this tournament's field is way different than you'd see in a normal year, right? So, Ben brought up the fact that there's more elite players here. I already mentioned, we've seen elite players just come to Colonial and just, have no problems with it right off the top. So again, you're looking at a guy like Rory, Justin Thomas, Schauffele, Dustin Johnson. None of these guys have course history, or if they do, it's terrible. So again, by not overweighting to course history that much, you're going to open yourself up to these players who are going to be lower owned, in my opinion, right off the top, than a Rahm, a Rose probably, although Rose is playing terrible, so he might not be super high owned. But, you kind of catch my drift where because of the change in the field, the change in circumstances, I think that not overweighting course history is again, just beneficial here. Not that you don't have to look at it. If there's a player simmering a bit and he's got good course history and it meshes, that's fine. But for me, yeah, I just wouldn't cross players off just because of no course history here this week or anything like that.
Yeah, no. And Chap brought that up about it's all relative. Like if you're a top end player and you play a weird event where the field strength is garbage, your course history is probably going to be amazing. If you're playing events against, the other top 20 best players in the world, well, if you're coming in 25th, it may look worse than it really is, considering how many other top end guys are there. So something to keep in mind, but let's move on to, so this is honestly the biggest topic I think we have. It's just questions we need answered, Sal, and there's a million of them. I'm just going to start throwing them out there and we'll see. Chat, feel free to chime in with your predictions on these. The first one is just, how do you think having no fans is going to affect the actual golf? Do you think it's no deal, a big deal, somewhere in between?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, I guess it's definitely a deal. I don't know if it's somewhere, I think it's somewhere in between is the best answer for that. So I guess a couple of things that I think about is, one, in terms of penalties, there's going to have to be at least one more penalty that we'll see throughout this time with no fans, when you're probably going to have some balls just lost and not found in the amount of time that they need to. So that's an issue. I think coming on Sundays for some maybe younger, maybe just more inexperienced players who haven't been there in contention on Sunday, when it comes to just that atmosphere, more pressure on you with thousands of eyes on you, that's gone. So I think the advantage is going to be there for guys coming into Sunday who have just never been in that position as much as compared to veterans. So I think those are some examples. I've heard narrower fairways if there's fans there for some of the bigger players who just always have their fairways guarded with fans. So I do think it's going to factor in a good amount. And I think that psychological aspect on Sundays, just the atmosphere, will probably be underrepresented, but I think it'll be there as well.
That's something I didn't really think about. I agree, though. I do. The pressure may be mitigated to an extent. The lost balls thing, Jeff, was my first thought. I don't think people realize, A, how many times the ball rolls and it hits a fan, and B, how many times a player gets up there and you have 500 people saying it went right there. Good luck if there's no one out there. There's going to be lost balls all over the place, aren't there?
Yeah. I think so. I think that was a really good point too. I was going to bring that up. Is I think the Bombers might actually get penalized a little bit. I mean, they're ricochet. Every week we say players, fans just ricochet balls back. It just hit into the rough instead of it rolls through or something like that. It's going to be a big deal on some of these courses. I'm not sure about. Well, actually, it might this week too. So I think especially some of those courses that just roll out. Maybe they don't have thick rough, but. I think every week it might be a factor. So I think that's something to seriously consider, maybe even this week. I'm not going to cross every Bomber off my list or anything, but I want to see how that plays out at the very least. I think it's going to be really interesting. And then, just the circumstances. I mean, I think even going back to the Sunday thing, I think you might see more players just kind of pack it in. Like, there's no fans to perform. If they're in 50th and they're like, they have 1-9 to play, you might just see more guys just kind of go off with like a 40 or something. So you might see more blowups too. That's just something that could happen randomly. Again, with no fans out there, there's no pressure, but there's also no pressure to perform, right? It's almost like tennis players tanking a match if they know they're not going to lose. So we'll see. There's going to be a couple weird things that happen for sure. Definitely, I think there's lost balls might go up a little bit. I think the driving accuracy for the top players could get affected. So yeah, no fans. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Do you think, just to put a touch on it, do you think it could extend to possibly guys not playing Sunday? Just being like, you know what, I'm not going to chance it. Like, I'm going to get to the next event. Yep. More withdrawals possibly?
It could, for sure. I mean, again, I think a lot of these guys, I don't want to say they feel pressured by fans, but again, they feel pressured to keep an image out there, right? Mm-hmm. If there's no young kids or people out there paying or coming down to see them, they won't feel as bad, right? So just even psychologically, maybe just subconsciously. So it could lead to that. And again, with the COVID thing, I mean, guys just might want to be, well, I don't want to go out there and chance it for an extra day. So like you said, I'll just go home or go to the next event. So yeah, I think there's going to be, I don't think there's going to be like a rash of withdrawals. Again, these guys are still playing for money. They're points. Everybody needs points at this point in the season. It's a condensed season, but I think the odd event you might see like a small rash of that kind of stuff.
So for me and Sal, you're involved in everything. NFL, you grind very hard. So I'm hoping that you have some like inside information for me, because I want to know, are we going to have Shot Tracker? I mean, I live with Shot Tracker. I need it.
I second that.
Do you think we're going to have Shot Tracker?
So I did a little digging on this one, because this is the most important.
We have you on the show.
This is the most important piece. So I typed in Shot Tracker into Twitter to start, the best search engine out there maybe. And Shot Tracker's Twitter page hasn't tweeted since 2017. No. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Not a good start. Okay.
Not a good start. But it did lead me down and left a little trail to find the actual information we're looking for. So the commissioner of the PGA Tour was quoted last week in saying this. He said, there are areas on the tour that have been identified as essential, the main one being the players. After that comes Shot Tracker, Shot Link system, and according to multiple ranks, it only ranks behind the players in the tournament. They are going to, with all their might, try and put it on. So based on that, I think we're going to have the Shot Link, the Shot Tracker. The issue is it's a truckload or 2 truckloads of people out there, and the ethics of like using more tests on those people. But then you also have 300 players and caddies on it. So the ethical question might just be out the window already for them. So yeah, I think we're going to have it. It's maybe a little bit of wishful thinking, but finding that quote made me feel a little bit more confident.
Oh, I need Shot Tracker. And I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And they referenced DraftKings as like the main reason they wanted to have it up there, which makes a lot of sense.
I mean, listen,
good news.
We've all talked about, like, no offense to some of these guys who are, kind of tour regulars, but you're not going to get that big of, it's just like, not to go on a tangent, but the MAC, a football conference, they used to play on Tuesdays. Their games, there's one reason you're watching that. You either went to school there or you bet the game. And Shot Tracker is kind of like that. There's a lot of golfers, unless you have a personal interest in, it's really not going to drum up too much interest. So I really hope they do get it. Just from a tilting standpoint, for you guys, if you haven't played, you got to have Shot Tracker up. There's no better sweat than seeing shot 3 to other and then just logging off. But that's neither here nor there. I guess we did talk about the withdrawals things, but I guess going to DFS specifically, Jeff.
Yep.
Are you going to, and this is a weird question, I think for me, probably no, but are you planning to build any differently strictly because of COVID, because of kind of where we're at? Guys may be withdrawing because of, temperatures and we don't know these things. Can you really factor that in? Or you just say, if I get burned, I get burned. There's nothing I can do.
I think what I'm going to do is, I mean, again, this is where I think social media might be useful. I really want to keep an eye on players who are being like ultra cautious.
Okay.
Like if a guy comes, if you read a little bit of the media, the news, if a guy just mentions like, oh yeah, like, any sign of this thing, I'm out of here. Like, I think there's players who are committed to coming back. Like a guy like Rory seems very committed to getting this thing off again. I'm not worried about him. But there has been players just mentioning it, like Adam Scott is actually a good example. He's not here this week because he's worried about it, right? So I think Adam Scott is, when he comes back, I'm not going to be rostering Adam Scott for a couple events, things like that. So I'm just going to try and get as much information on it as I can. Obviously, I can't predict. I mean, you know, we could sit here and talk about it like, oh, Jason Day always has health issues. I mean, I probably should avoid Jason Day anyways. Like, but you know, players like that, you can make assumptions, but unless I have like a real hard reason for it, again, like he shows up in an interview, he says, I'm going to be ultra cautious. I have like an out plan. You know, if there's one person gets it, I'm gone or something like that. Then I'll probably not roster him. But other than that, you know, it's just, yeah, you're going to, and there's probably going to be, you're going to have to take your lumps probably at some point this year. Like there's probably going to be at least one incident. So where somebody withdraws because of a reason like that, hopefully there isn't, but you know, it is for people, again, new to this, you know, expect withdrawals are a thing in golf anyways, and we just have an extra factor that might lead to it. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Sal, you kind of in line with that? I don't know where else you could go with it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a couple. So yeah, I agree. Like outside of like the stuff we talked on earlier, like how to weight things, I think everything else will be the same. Maybe like I'll play a little bit more showdown than I used to, just keeping up with some of the withdrawals. But I would normally say like in uncertain times, like I'm just going to reduce my entries. But when there's 10 contests with 25K to first or more, that's out the window. Like
and no
that's
other
not gonna
sports.
happen. Yeah, and no other sports right now. So yeah, I've had my run of Korean baseball maybe, so we're gonna have to load this one up even in uncertain times.
It's gonna be very, you know, golf is extremely high variance. My primer talks about that, but there's gonna be a lot of new people, and there's gonna be a lot of people that don't do the little things. Who's to say? I mean, I would imagine there will be a couple withdrawals here and there. It's not to say that they might not be before lock. If you catch them and you adjust, there will be people who will miss it. There's no doubt. And if players are adamant that, you know, CT Pan was someone at the Players Championship, he was just like, this is not good enough for me. Like the safety is not there. I'm not playing. If we get word, like you said, Jeff, that some of these guys are like, I'm going to wait and see, I'm going to go to Colonial, but if I don't like what I see, I'm getting out of here. That is something to really keep in mind as we move on. But I know we're going to keep it somewhat general, but I had to get it in, chat. I know you guys, if you watch the morning show, love Rank 'em. So we're going to play Rank 'em with a couple golfers here, specifically for this tournament. So here we go. I'm going to give 3 golfers. So we could start with you. We're going to take price into account, obviously. So first guy up, we got Bryson at 10.1 on DraftKings. We've got DJ at 9,500. And then we've got Morikawa at 9,100. How do you order them? How do you rank them?
You want me to rank it like assuming just they all have the exact same ownership?
Yeah, ownership notwithstanding, but price is important.
So without ownership, price factor in, I'll go Morikawa, DJ, and Bryson.
Oh, going the opposite. You're still sold on Morikawa just continuing his ridiculous iron play?
Yeah, just the ridiculous iron play, the consistency in it. And then the price is just a big piece of that, where you can get him as like the second guy into your lineup, but he has that upside to finish top 10 and probably make the cut for you based on the streak he's on.
For you real quick, and then Jeff, of course, I want to get you. DJ at 9,500. At first I was like, wow, that's cheap. Then I looked at the field and I was just like, well, that's probably what he should be. You have really a feel at first glance here?
I actually liked it.
Oh, no. Sorry, go ahead. He was asking you about the price. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's my bad. I actually liked it at first just because his main thing when he was struggling was really the putter. And we saw that come around a couple of times right before the break, not right at the WGC, but Genesis, I think AT&T. So I liked it at the price point and hoping that like Morikawa and maybe some other guys would pick up ownership around him.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty reasonable. Ownership's going to dictate a lot. Jeff, obviously it's the same to you. We got Bryson, we've got DJ, we've got Morikawa. Where do you fall on those 3?
So I have DJ ranked for sure last.
Okay.
I'm just not sold on what DJ was doing before. And again, I don't know if Dustin Johnson is the type of player who gets a break and then just, like puts himself into the game. He's got Paulina, he's got, Florida. He seemed to be having a pretty good time there. I'm not sure if, I'm not saying he's going to come out and be terrible, but, I'm not sold on I wasn't sold on Dustin Johnson before. And again, this is a course where we've seen Dustin Johnson go to some of these technical tracks before and just not be very good. So, his best attributes probably dialed back a little bit this week on some of these tighter holes and stuff like that. And again, and really it comes down to this. I mean, you look at the range for me, 107, 150, 175 yards. I mean, you got Morikawa ranked 4th, going back like 24 rounds. You've got Bryson, who actually isn't that bad. And Bryson has been a beast off the tee here. Bryson doesn't have the greatest course history, but I would still put Bryson second. I'll take Morikawa first. I think the only thing that would lead me off a little bit of Morikawa this week is just seeing how his ownership percentages are. I'm anticipating they'll be good because, again, we're talking about him. He's the cheapest of the 3. So that's how I would rank them, though. Straight up for sure. I'd go Morikawa, Bryson, and then DJ.
So I'm going to, and listen, you know me, I have to, at least in every show I do, I have to play psych doctor once. If there is one person on the tour that is just like going Cape Fear grinding, it's got to be Bryson. Like Bryson, 2-month layoff, I guarantee he's in the lab just doing crazy stuff. I don't want to say that he solved driving, but his last 4 tournaments that we have measured, 7.2, 6, 3.8, and 5.4 strokes gained just off the tee. Yeah. That's like Rory style. So if he can pair anything with that type of driving, I think he comes out firing. I know he's the most expensive. For me, I'm going to put Bryson first, Morikawa second, DJ third. We saw DJ play in the boat, whatever that thing was, which was terrible with Wolf and Ricky and Rory. Right. But I think he kind of comes out in typical DJ fashion, a little sluggish, and builds up, where I think Bryson comes out like a madman. So I'm going to go that route and think that Bryson possibly my pick to win this. We'll see when we get back here on Monday.
All right.
Yeah, don't hate on Bryson, my man. Everyone hates him, but God, is he good. All right, we're going to go down to – this is an interesting one. So here, Sal, you asked me before, obviously smart question, with ownership and price. The price is all the same on the next 3 guys. They are all $7,400. We've got – I call him the Chilean amateur. He's not an amateur. But we've got Joaquin Niemann, we've got Matthew Wolff, and we've got Benny On, 7,400. Really tough here. How would you order these 3?
Yeah, so at the exact same price, if we're just factoring in win upside, it'll be On, Wolff, and Niemann for me. But if we're factoring in what's likely to be the ownership, it'll be Wolff, Niemann, On, and I'm probably just going to fade Benny On at this point. We'll find out though once the ownership comes. I know it's like against the sacred DFS tout rule book to say negative against Benny On, but I've had enough with the putting, and I'm gonna let. I mean, there's 2 sides to it. The break could have helped it completely, like he was saying, or it could just be the exact same, and he'll be like 20% owned and crash. So I'm gonna maybe be on that side. We'll see if I get it right, but who knows at this point.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, you have 3 uber talented guys, all young, of course. It's just a matter of, to me, if not when all of them have a win, of course. Niemann and Wolff and these guys have already done some damage. Okay. That hurts me. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big Benny On guy, as is everybody, though. He's always ridiculously popular.
Yeah.
Jeff, you just retweeted Benny On just before the show. So what do you say about all this?
I mean, look, I'm probably going to get a piece of Benny On, but I don't know if it'll be a DFS. I might just put a little bet on him, and that way it'll make me feel better about fading him, because I kind of am with Saul. Like, it's the first one everyone kind of pointed out on Twitter. Oh, Benny On 7,400. Like, ownership's going to be high. So I am also a little bit sick with the putting as well. And this isn't really his best surface for putting. I don't want to get too deep into it today, but I'm looking more at Benny in the next tournament, RBC on Bermuda. I think that's a better setup for him. He's got better course history there. So I think this is a sneaky spot to fade him. Again, I'll hedge that with a bet probably because I'm a wimp, but I like Niemann. I like Niemann of these 3. This is a real Niemann track. I mean, he can get hot with his irons. Again, he's a young dude. I think similar to what you said with Bryson, a lot of these young guys probably just out in the range grinding. Like, what else are they going to do, right? So I think Niemann is a guy who could come in and really surprise here. I would put Wolff last of these 3. He was just inconsistent before with pretty much every part of his play. He's kind of a sprayer off the tee. One of those players who could, get hurt a little bit by no fans. So I'd put him last year.
Wolff is someone for me that I thought he was going to be the best of this crowd. And listen, it's very early. Like Morikawa, Hovland, and these other guys have just been more well-rounded. Wolff has lost around the green in every event in 2020. He has no short game. And at these tracks that are somewhat difficult, you can't just be hitting every green. It doesn't work like that. I worry about that specifically with him.
Yeah, especially here. Like he's going to miss a ton of fairways. So that's just a fact, right? So
no doubt. That's why Benny, fantastic scrambler. He can't putt a lick,
that's
but
true.
He gets it up. Can't get it down, but he at least puts it close before he misses his 4-footer.
Just on that note, for quickly, I mean, I've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years. I don't think I've ever seen a player with such a good short game be such a bad putter. Usually when you have a player with a good short game, they're at least like an above average putter. It's pretty much insane what Benny Ann's splits are between his short game and putting. It's bizarre.
Yeah, he's a troll. He's such a troll. Like his around the green play might be like the best in this field. And then he's just terrible when he gets there.
So that's one thing, because another thing I have to do for every show. I have to mention Griot. People talk about how bad of a putter he is, and he's one of the worst on the tour. He's equally bad with his short game. Like he has the full package of what you don't want around the green. Benny Ann is the opposite. I think maybe the best scrambler. I shouldn't say scrambler, just around the green player. Snedeker, all these other guys, great around the green, great putters. Rarely do you see a big split like that. So kind of odd. We'll see. One thing we're going to talk about on Monday, I want to play another Rankum we have some really old players in here. Bernard Langer Stricker is here, really cheap. Don't know what we're going to do with them because we don't have data really. They don't play many tournaments.
No.
That's going to be weird. So something to keep in mind, chat. We're going to have a lot of value if you want to pay up and pay down. Before we get to the final topic here, and then we'll give some final thoughts and get out of here. I just wanted to say once again, if you haven't signed up and you want to, promo code Schwab is 20% off that PGA yearly package. Promo code SUMMER is 10% off the Platinum yearly. We'd love to have you guys in. If those are too daunting, come in for a week. Try it out. See what you think. We've got these guys, myself, Jason Roslin, Nolan Kelly, everyone, of course, Alex Baker, projections, ownership, all those good tools. So I really think you'll enjoy it. I have to ask you this, Jeff. I've had several people in chat call you Moose. Is there a story behind this?
Yeah, look, I've been doing Madden Sims for DK, just same color, and we do like 6 a day. I don't do 6 a day, but I do a couple a day, and it's just gotten ridiculous. Some of the stuff, the nicknames and stuff. So it all stems from that. There's no way I'm going over the story because it's too ridiculous to even recount. But yeah, that's just people from the YouTube chat. I guess there's people just the YouTube chat. They go awesome mode, Madden Sims, whatever. But
they know. Okay,
that's good. It's good to know. It's sticking. Like I said, there's worse things than people can call me. So
no doubt. Okay, so where we go. We got some predictions going forward here, Sal. These are macro things. I'm just interested to get your take. Do you think that we're going to unfortunately have the dreaded start and stop? Obviously, golf is coming back now. Do you think they smooth sail through the majors and whatnot, or do you think, unfortunately, we may see a stoppage in there?
I don't think they'll stop, but it is all contingent on what the testing looks like and like if things just get crazy. But based on the stuff I was reading for NFL, apparently like for the NFL to stop at this point, if it does start, stuff that has been coming out for the last like 3 to 4 months would all have to be proven wrong and like radical things would have to have happened. So it seems like they're in a pretty good spot. And the other advantage that really any place has, but it's so nice for golf is, well, one, outdoors, of course, but two, like they're all independent contractors, but they're not under like a franchise like an NFL team. So they can just say, I'm not playing, but there's so many guys who would like to be on the tour. So they could just be like, all right, I'll fill your spot. So I think in terms of having players, they'll be fine. And then as long as they have adequate testing, I think everything should be okay.
I think that makes sense. On that note, similar question to you, Jeff, and feel free to address that. I guess the majors, those are the big ones. We know the British Open is gone already. The Masters, though, the U.S. Open, the PGA, they're supposed to be played. Now, the U.S. Open was supposed to be played in my backyard here in New York. I'm kind of skeptical of that venue, but I guess they're going ahead. What do you think? How do you think that works? You think we can get them in?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Sal makes a good point. Again, the PGA is just unique from the other leagues, right? So there could be a week where we just have like 2 players get tested and they come out positive or something, and just from like a safety standpoint, they just say, okay, we're not playing this week. I could see that happening. The majors, though, are a little bit deeper in the year, right? And I think they're going to be fine. I really do. I think that of of all three events, the PGA is focused on these. I think they're going to be ultra safe, ultra cautious, making sure everything's good before. I think if anyone, they're going to be pre-testing hopefully and stuff like that. So I'm pretty optimistic, to be honest. I know things didn't look good with this virus thing before, and especially just from a general society and world standpoint, but I'm a little bit more optimistic, I think, than most people are, just with where we are modernly. I know a lot of people like to compare it to like things that happened in the past. I think modern technology is better at sniffing these things out than people realize. So I am of the optimistic standpoint that, yeah, these are going to happen. They're actually going to be good. Really interested to see how, the Augusta plays in November. I think TPC Harding Park in August is going to be a fun one, but I think they're going to all be fine. I don't know if they're going to be with fans. I don't know how that's going to work. I could see Augusta being with fans, maybe not the other ones. Like you said, I mean, Winged Foot is maybe the most sketchy, but we'll see. I'm of the optimistic camp. So
yeah, listen, I think there is some reason to be optimistic. The fans is a whole different thing, and I guess it actually dovetails nicely into the last question, and then we'll give some final thoughts. Bounce on out of here. And reminder, we're going to be the real Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to have golf shows focusing on Colonial, breaking down, answering your questions, chat. But Sal, the Ryder Cup is supposed to be this year. That event it's almost more important for the fans than it is the players in some points. Do you think they can have that without fans / does that even make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so I try to look into this, and I don't think it really matters like financially for like the European Tour or anything. Like the way that they rotate it through, like financially, they won't lose anything, and the PGA Tour is fine. So like immediately it'll matter for money, but if it didn't happen, it wouldn't be like a catastrophic hit to anybody. So I think that it can definitely not happen. If I'm a player, I probably don't want to do it, which then begs the question, like, how far down are they willing to go to just say, like, all right, you can just go out there and play in the Ryder Cup if you want to. And if that's the case, I think it'll end up going on. But yeah, if I was a player, I wouldn't want to be playing with no fans out there. As a viewer, I'm fine watching it either way. It won't feel like as cool, as hyped in some of the moments, but if it's on TV, I'm probably going to put it on.
That's one, Jeff, I don't know. It's just I think, I'll put it like this, and I know naturally there's most sports moments are like this. I just think about every Ryder Cup moment that I know of, and the fans are an integral part of it. Like, Reed and Rory and Justin Leonard, so many moments. I'm not sure how it will play without fans. I really don't know that specifically.
I'll tell you how it'll play. It'll be stupid. Like, I honestly think the only mistake PGA has made thus far is they should have canceled the Ryder Cup. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a fan event. There's no prize money. The players, like Sal just said, I mean, some of them are probably going to be dropping out anyways. So then you're diluting the event. I think it's the first thing they should have canceled, quite frankly. You just don't need to have it on the schedule. It's just adding to the schedule. It's a great event. So don't do it half-assed. Like, I mean, and you could say, well, they're doing the Masters half-assed, but they're really not. Like, the Masters is going to be good because Augusta National would never put on that event without it being amazing, right? So the Ryder Cup, if they have to do it without fans, I think it's gonna be ridiculous. I think this is not the right year to have it. I think you push it back. Even if you have to push it back 2 years, who cares? Like, it'll just make the next one better. So I think stuffing that onto the schedule is a mistake. I'm still interested to see if it goes down, but it does look like they're going to try and get it in. So.
Yeah, we've seen, friend of the show, Mike in chat had mentioned there's been some guys that said they're not really down for it without fans. We'll see, what push comes to shove, will they play? But we will, we'll have to see. And yes, absolutely. Next week, we will dive deep into the 7K range. Don't worry. I'll have thoughts on Kisner and Sneds, who keep an eye on Sneds. I think he might be out already. Saw some things.
Yeah, there's something floating around about Sneds. So
these are the things we're going to have to adjust to. And that's why we'll have up to the minute shows, but let's close it out with some final thoughts here. I really don't have any, honestly. It's just great to be back. I'll say that, chat. I've missed most of you. I see a lot of you on the morning show, but we've got some golf regulars that have popped in. It's just great. It's going to be a long year. Pace yourself. I know it's tempting. As Sal said, there's so many big tournaments. I'm going to be playing a lot, but don't go crazy. It's 1 week. Let's get back, get focused, and see where we're at. Sal, what do you make of it? And any final thoughts before we duck on out of here?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be back. I think that, right up there with NFL is how much I enjoy playing PGA DFS. So I'm very excited to have this thing back. It is like the NFL season is starting one-on-one for me, really. So I'm excited. I'm excited that I had not just more than a week, but months to get off of the Benny drug. I got out of rehab. I might have some drawback now that I see the name and I can click it in the 7K range. It's going to be hard and I have to do a little itching, but we'll get out of that. So yeah, no, I'm excited. I guess the one thing that came to my mind is like a final thought that I wanted to ask, and this is just like a turf science major. It's the weirdest question, but with them moving the Masters and everything, and just some of these events, really, do you think they're going to resod and like change some of the grass types, or do you think it's still going to be warm enough?
So that's something I'm not going to pretend to know, but that's why I think course history may be a little murky, Jeff.
Right, that's what I was
make
thinking.
Of that?
Yeah, I don't think Augusta will be doing that, but Augusta will look different. Like it'll be brown. You know how everything's green there? Like there'll be some brown. So that's why I say Augusta is the one I'm really looking at, and maybe Winged Foot, although I don't know how Winged Foot plays because we don't see it regularly. So, but Augusta is one that you might just, I don't want to say throw course history for that week, but I won't be leaning on it as much as a regular Masters. So. Yeah, there's going to be some different, and I think it's going to be a week-to-week thing. Definitely keep an eye on the courses and what's going on, because there will be some incidences where maybe they are doing some reseeding or it just plays differently. So might not be a huge factor, but it might be enough to make the course play a little bit differently.
No, cool. There you go. These are the things that, like I said, we're all going to figure them out together. Jeff, anything else? You good to go? You ready for Monday?
No.
Excited to be back.
Look, I've already bet Harris English.
Oh wow! So you're
the first guy I bet. Like it's all good. I mean, the books are happy I'm back, so let's go.
I bet they are. On that note, chat, we're gonna get out of here. Remember, if you have any questions, get inside. We want you inside the ropes. Join awesemo.com. Get in Slack. Have access to these guys. Access to me. Follow us all on Twitter. We got the handles right below our names. Special thanks to Josh Engelman for producing. That's why everything went so smoothly. It's not me bungling things behind the glass. We will be back Monday, same time, but going deep into the Colonial, asking your questions. We'll see you guys then. Thanks again.